All right, welcome everyone. We have, and don't kill me, I am horrible with names. So Dr. Jocelyn, did I say that
Yeah,
right?
that's
Yes.
perfect, yeah. Or just Jocelyn, that works too.
Jocelyn. All right, either way, thank you so much for coming on with us today. On this beautiful Monday morning, we have had the privilege already to have a preview that you have already gone for a walk.
Love that for you.
Yeah, I am when like the sun's up, I gotta get out there. Yeah.
Oh, that is yeah, talking's a thing. That is absolutely awesome. Don't mind me today, everybody.
Not at all. Look, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be able to sit down and talk with two women about meat and whoever might put questions out there. I think I just love this movement. I love this community. It's so positive, so upbeat, and yeah, it's a real blessing. And I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Oh, we're so happy.
Yes. I had the beautiful pleasure of getting to run into you, and fortunately, my naivete, I have no idea who anyone really is. So I'm like talking with you and we're chatting and we're walking along to the things and you're like, "Yeah, I'm in the group with you." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's great." Don't mind me.
But so often, all you get is this little teensy thumbnail of a person, like the
Exactly.
little image. So, we're just
Yeah.
anonymous little voices out there, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Like,
I'm
what's your
really
handle? I don't know anybody by their names. What's your handle?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's,
what?
I was going to say, there's a collection of people I know in my neighborhood. I know their names now, but I get to know them through their dogs' names, right? So, people that I know based on, oh, that's Lulu's mom and dad, right?
Yeah.
I'm
That's
not sure what
right.
their names are yet, but I'll get there.
That's how we know you're a good person, because you know the dog's name. You're part of our inner circle now. You've made your way.
It's so
Yeah.
funny how that happens because like same with me with the people on here. I'm like, I don't know. And if they change their handle or their profile picture, oh forbid.
Oh my God, the first time you changed your profile picture, and Selena and I are like this. We talk every single day.
Yeah.
And she changed her, and I was like, who is that? I don't know who that is. That girl. I don't know who that is.
You didn't tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Exactly.
And I'm about
Exactly.
that dark hair in 2 weeks, just to throw everybody off the
I'm so
rocker.
excited
So
for it. I'm
the blonde's
excited.
gone. I'm done with it. No more
Yeah.
time for
Yeah.
blonde.
Hearing. Yeah.
Ready.
Well,
Ready for
I
dark.
I met you with dark hair, so I'm like, bring back my
Hmm.
Jenny. I don't know who
I
this is.
know.
You've been
I know. I don't even know who it is either. I look and I'm like, look, okay, I'm ready to go, I think. It was fun for the
so
summer.
let's add in some questions here. I know as I have seen all of your content, you one have such an amazing heart. The way you present for people is like this, and excuse my language, but this no bullshit love.
Mm.
Like I'm telling you how it is, but it's from a place of just loving them, whoever they are, right? And that's not that common.
Hmm.
And I love that. So I want to ask, firstly, what brought you into deciding to be online, to start making content for people? Because that's totally different than just wanting to educate about meat. Like,
Yeah. Well, I feel like we have no time to waste,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah,
I've, I guess we all have stories. Every one of us
yeah.
that comes here comes from a place of suffering of some type. And so I have had my own, right? So I
Yeah.
grew up with a rather profound poverty. My dad left when I was 8. Haven't seen him again. Not sure if he's dead or
Oh,
alive. But
yeah.
and so I was raised by a single mom who had a severe disability of her own. She had a juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. So,
Wow.
and Canadians in the group may know Maud Lewis. She was
Hmm.
a famous artist, but she had this incredible disability. Her hands were like that. That was my mom, and that's how she raised
Oh,
me. But she just had this profound positive attitude that it's all going to be okay, even though I know now she must have seen it as being so scary. 4
Yeah.
kids by herself. And
Wow.
at the same time, I knew that to get out of poverty, I had one shot, right? And it was going to be with my head, right? So I said, I'm teachable, right? I can learn stuff and I'm a good student. So I'm just going to get a bunch of scholarships and I'm going to go to school and I'm going to become a doctor and I'm going to help people because I had started mothering my own mom even from a young age, right?
Yeah.
And so by the time I was 24, by the end of med school, it was actually my last month of med school, I was diagnosed with my own autoimmune condition, ulcerative colitis. And so that for people that aren't aware of colitis, it's a condition that affects primarily the colon, right? So it causes ulcerations and bleeding in the colon. It's the point that it can be scary. I've taken lots of patients to the
Yeah.
OR with ulcerative colitis with something called toxic megacolon. If you don't get that colon out, they're dead in 24 hours, right? So anyway, I was diagnosed with that and told at the time, I said, look, it's a digestive disorder. I should probably change my diet. And the guy said, the gastroenterologist said, no, just, take the pills, right? Actually, the one thing he said not to eat was carrageenan, which is an emulsifier. So I'm putting that out there for people that live with colitis, how important avoiding emulsifiers is in people in general. But I went along my merry way, had my head down, just working my butt off, crazy, stupid hours, and then started. I finished my residency after 5 years, opened my own practice, and by about year 6 or 7, by 37, I was like, ooh, these pills aren't just doing enough for me right now. I was, eating Canada's Food Guide. I was, I'd had
Yeah.
3 babies in like 5 years, and
Wow.
the stress was just adding up. And it was suggested, in cultural places that maybe vegetarian is the better way to approach autoimmune illnesses. So I did that, and it wasn't helping. So then it was,
Yeah.
well, I wasn't vegetarian enough. I should go vegan. So I did that for 3 years. And by the time I was 43, I said, you know what? Like, I'm not controlling my colitis anymore. It's controlling me. So I said,
Yeah.
like, maybe we should cut out my colon because I can't live like this anymore. And that was the first doctor that said, you know what? Could you do a specific carbohydrate diet? And I was like, well, what the fuck's that? Absolutely. I'll do anything, right? And so a specific carbohydrate diet is unique to colitis and Crohn's disease. And basically, it was created. I don't want to misspeak, but I believe it was a dietitian who had a very sick daughter with Crohn's in the 80s, and she said, "Look, there's a legal and illegal list of carbs out there, and stick to the things that are legal." So by just eliminating certain carbs and bringing meat back in my life, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I was a new person within a week. And I said, well, if specific carbohydrates is good, what about low carbohydrate and then no
Right.
carbohydrate? So I evolved along the way. And at the same time, I saw what an impact diet had on my suffering. I'm treating patients at the hospital, right? I'm taking, 20-year-olds in with schizophrenia or
Yeah.
with dementia or with a depression rather, and doing ECT therapy, right? I'm giving them anesthetics so we can, blast their brain with electricity. I've got diabetics we're bringing in so we can cut off their legs in sequential parts. So we take it
Yeah.
off at their midfoot, and then we take it off below the knee, and then we take it off above the knee, and then we take the other side. I'm seeing women with such severe forms of obesity, they can't get the babies out. So I'm like, what if I met these people years in advance, right? And there's a beautiful quote by Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And he said, we have to stop pulling bodies out of the river. We have to go upstream and keep them from falling in. So I thought, what
Yeah.
if, right? What if I could just tell people that we've all been lied to? The doctors have been lied to. Patients,
Yeah.
we've been lied to. The food guides have all been a lie.
Mm.
Get the carbohydrates out, eat the meat, right? Screw all this societal pressure to, save the planet by eating almonds, right? That's not
Right.
working. Yeah, so
No,
I
it's
feel
not.
there's no time to waste. Like, there are people right now that are going in for those same procedures that don't have to be there, don't have to be in a hospital. Who wants to be there, right? So
No.
that's and at that point, I realized, if I just get out there and put a message out every day, maybe I'll get one person not to lose a leg or not to have ECT therapy, and that'll be worth it.
That is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Because it it's hard to watch, like you said, and I can't even imagine being in your profession specifically. Like, you're watching it every day, not
Yeah.
just, like with some of us where, like, it might be one of our parents, and maybe we see somebody, a neighbor down the road, or not that, we're not being shown that, but to have to look at that every day, I mean, that's got to be such a, like, hitting your head up against the wall every day when you walk in, like, what am I going to do with these people? Like you said, how do I help these people before they need me? You
Yeah.
know?
And I'll tell you, if you're in a room where someone's losing a leg, where someone's getting an amputation, it's like a moral distress that is, obviously an incredible impact on that patient, changes their life forever, and basically guarantees that they will be dead usually within the next 5 years, right? But that whole room, it's solemn, right? It's a
Yeah,
horrible feeling, right? And it's a form of trauma that people, you pick up somebody's leg and put that in a box, you're like, oh God, what have we done to humans, right?
yeah,
But it's a life or death thing. If you don't take that leg off, they won't. And
yeah,
there are some people out there that are getting amazing results through even seeing these diabetic legs and saying, okay, we're cutting out the carbs today, we're eating the meat. Let's see if we can heal this ulcer before it turns into an amputation.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah,
I wish my dad could hear that. I wish
yeah.
he could hear that. So he's still here. He has not been able to walk really on his own. I think we're going on 10 years now.
Mm.
And I am pretty sure about 7 of those years ago, he should have had at least one of his feet amputated. Should have, because that's why he can't walk. He's extreme type 2 diabetic and refuses. He keeps, I forget what it's called, but he keeps having to go in where what is it? Where
Debride. They take away parts of the skin, the
they've
tissue.
done that. They've done that many times.
Mm.
Um, I want to say it's something where they're adding,
IV antibiotics, we use that as a baseline too. They put vacuum dressings on to
they've done that.
decrease the oxygen environment so that the bacteria don't grow as much.
Yeah, it's I almost wanna say there's something with, like, carbon dioxide or something?
Oh, like they do hyperbaric therapy, I wonder? Some places they'll do hyperbaric
Maybe,
for diabetic wounds. Yeah.
maybe. It was bad. So what happened is he had a knee replacement when he was still functional, and a few days after he got out of surgery, he ended up with a full stroke, paralyzing the same side that had the surgery. And so he wasn't able to do any of the,
Rehab.
standard.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it has been a problem ever since. He
Yeah.
has been suggested for amputation probably 5 times now, and he
Mm.
refuses.
Yeah.
And we understand, but in the same shot, it's kind of like, how much of it is saving your life and how much of it is hindering your life, and we're just in this constant battle. He lives on whatever the highest grade antibiotic is that he has to stay on every day. Like, it's just, and I go, and then when he goes into rehab for these intervention sessions that happen about every 2 years approximately, I see the crap that they feed him when he's
Oh,
in these places, and I'm like, "He's a type 2 diabetic, and you're giving him cake and pudding and, whatever, toast with butter," and I'm like, "Can we just not give him all of that and just give him, like, actual food?"
yeah.
And they're like, "Well,
Absolutely.
we'll just adjust it with his insulin."
We'll cover the carbs with the insulin, right? But it
Yeah,
is we have cheapened the importance of food, and it is the most critical thing we do in a day is what we
yeah,
put in our bodies, right? Because it's how
absolutely.
we build ourselves, right? And we're dealing with it in my own personal family. My 90-year-old father-in-law has been living in an assisted living environment for the last 2 years, and we've watched him just like get weaker and weaker. And he's lost his muscle, but they're
Yeah,
feeding him just I don't even know if he'd have, 50 grams of protein a day, right? And he
right.
needs at least 120. And so we have been bringing in like meatballs and sausages and cheese. And
Right.
now we're finally seeing like, oh, he's got his voice back. Oh, he's got his energy back. Oh, he's now wants a set of dumbbells, right? So, but yeah, these
It's amazing.
institutions, and we see it in so often, like you talk about the joint replacements. So part in anesthesia is, there are so many people that 30 years ago we would never offer a joint replacement to, that we offer
Right.
to now on a routine basis, right?
Yeah.
And then we put a new knee in on a Wednesday, and then on Sunday we're taking them in to the OR to get the pus out of their joint
Yeah.
because they've had so much infection, because their blood sugar has been so high for the last 4 days,
Yeah.
right? People that should not be offered joint replacements, right? Until
Yeah.
their diabetes is well controlled. But in your dad's
Exactly.
case, to have a horrible,
Yeah.
like a devastating stroke like that is such a huge complication, right? And we
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
doing enough to optimize people ahead of time. And then on top of that, afterwards, just to feed them carbs on carbs, right? So you'll
Yeah.
have a bowl of oatmeal, and then they'll often have like, some fruit or some
Yep.
pudding. This is a
Mhm.
breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Every
Exactly.
meal has a dessert. Every
Mhm.
meal, right?
Every single one.
Like, I remember, back in the 70s, you'd have, like, dessert maybe once or twice a week. That was it, right? But
Yeah.
now it's every day, every meal, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's until people realize the impact of these simple, cheap, convenient carbs have this insidious evil effect on our bodies,
Mm.
until people have that awakening and awakening to their own addiction. For your dad's case, like you
Yeah.
have no doubt talked to him about, "Dad, could you give up
Oh,
whatever?"
yeah. Oh, yeah. We've
Right?
gone through whole things, and when we're present together, he's like, "Oh, yeah, I know it's better." And what's hilarious is he and my mom owned barbecue chains growing up. Like, they ran 7 barbecue restaurants. So to him, he's like, "Oh, I would love that." But then when I
But
talked to him, there's no there's no incentive on top of it because his home nurse care, when he goes into his doctors, it's like, "Oh, well, they say it's fine as long as." They
Mm,
say it's fine
yeah,
as long as. So it's
yeah.
like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not whatever. I know I've done probably enough research to have accomplished that in my time, but it's like,
yeah.
I don't I'm not sitting there in his office with him with the white coat on.
Yeah.
And they say, "We'll just fix it with this, so it's fine. It's fine." I'm
Absolutely,
like,
and,
"It's
like,
not
what
fine."
what has medicine done for him, right? It's only made him,
Exactly.
wheelchair dependent and gave him a horrible stroke, right? So,
Exactly.
maybe, yeah, when you look at, but
Yeah.
how about doing something completely different? Being brave enough to step off that path. But I look
Yeah.
at addiction. Addiction
Mm.
is continued consumption despite no consequence.
Mhm.
Even though diabetes is a disease of carbohydrates, I am still eating carbohydrates. Why? That most diabetics, type 2 diabetics, have some form of food addiction, right? And
Yeah.
I see this so often in practice. I'll have people, look at their chart. They're on 6 different drugs. And universally, I will say, would you be interested in getting off some of these medications? They all say yes. 100% of
Mhm.
people say yes. I don't want these drugs. I say, would you be willing to change the way you eat? And they say, maybe. I say, could you give up bread, cookies, sweets, grains, sugar?
No.
And I would say, exactly. Then all of a sudden, the acceptance rate plummets. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah?
well, you can live with food addiction and you can live with these
Yeah.
drugs, right? Like you can't do
Exactly.
both. You can't, if you want to give up the drugs, you got to give up the food addiction.
Yeah. And
Oh,
most
it's so sad. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah, it is,
yeah.
right? And it's we've done it, right? So we've done it to ourselves. It was
Yeah.
1910, the Abraham Flexner report that basically amputated physicians' training and knowledge about the impact of diet, right? So it's been over 2,500 years since Hippocrates
Yeah.
said, "Let food be thy medicine," right? We've known
A
for
long
millennia
time.
about the
Yeah.
importance of food, but doctors don't. And so all we can do is say, "Oh, follow the food guide," right?
Yeah.
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 Food guide, which has been completely paid for through corporations, right? So of the
Exactly.
US Department of Agriculture, over 93 or 95% of them have multiple corporate interests. that are then
Yeah.
going forward and saying, this is what America should eat, right? And similarly in Canada too.
I think it's fairly similar just across the world. Like, I don't think it's, one of those things where it's like, "Oh, only here." It's like, no, worldwide. If you talk to anybody that, you're able to have a conversation with, because obviously there's lots of countries we don't have those rights towards. But
Right.
if you're able to have a conversation with and you go, what's the recommended health food regimen for your country? It's fairly similar across the board. And you kind of
Absolutely.
go, that's interesting.
You know, it is interesting though, because I'll say, growing up with Eastern European parents, farming Eastern European parents, I grew up
Yeah.
very meat and vegetables, right? Because in the farm, that's all you have access to. And I know there's like one very specific point in Romania, my grandmother's generation, so the part we're from Transylvania, and they would bake bread, sourdough from scratch, and then they would burn the edges and they would pour water over it, and that would be the only access to coffee that they could get. Very unique to the country,
Isn't that
very weird
interesting?
practice, still to this day a practice. But what you don't see in my family, well, what you do see, my mom's mom passed at 100, almost 101. My dad's mom is currently 100 years old, still alive, both living on their own, in their own homes, fully cognizant. Both grandmothers had cancer, like, but not until like 90 years old. Like my current grandmother has skin cancer and couldn't care less. She still walks 5 kilometers a day. Um, so what you see, right, are these health, healthy bodies, healthy minds. There's my uncle is schizophrenic, but that's once they came to Canada and they started following these food patterns, right? And before he passed from a heart attack 2 years ago, but or a year ago, sorry. Him and I would have conversations all the time because I would say, Uncle Doug, why do you eat so much candy? And it was just he acknowledged he had a complete food addiction. And I mean, he was like, unfortunately, here, government aid is not top tier always for people in the mental health space. So he was living on very minimal amounts of money. And so he would say to me, like, well, all I can afford is food from the Dollarama, or all I can afford is this canned this or this canned that. But I did start to influence him enough that I'd be like, just buy like ground chicken or something, right? Eat that. And he started eating that more and more. Unfortunately, we didn't know his heart was in bad shape, but you just see the difference. And because I didn't grow up with carbs almost at all in my diet, and definitely no desserts. We just were not a dessert family. I don't think I drank a pop until I was in my 20s. I
Wow.
still to this day could not, like when people are like, do you not crave dessert? Do you not miss dessert? And I'm like, never ate, even when I ate completely a sad diet, I never craved pasta and pizza and like candies. It just wasn't my thing. Because it was never part of my life. And so you see these people, I think, interestingly, and I'll point back to Selena because she has a young one, is people now I notice who I talk to about diet. So, like, a good friend of mine has 2 young girls and she's pre-diabetic. She's 38, and now on Ozempic and this whole circle of things. Will not listen to me about diet. And she has a young one, same age as Selena's young one. And I look at the difference between one child who is on sugar. Like, oh, I got to give her ice cream and she needs a treat. Oh, I got to give them pasta. They love it. Oh, I got to get right. And I see the difference. And
Yeah.
generally, girls tend to outperform boys from young ages to a certain age. And I interact with Selena's son, I interact with her son, and it's no love lost to my friend, but the cognizance, the
Mm.
physical capacity, the physical health, the hair of these children, comparative to me,
Yeah.
is like you can see the development of Selena's son is so progressed. He
Yeah.
looks like a healthy child. He's got this beautiful hair. He speaks like an adult, right? He speaks so eloquently. Um, it's just he looks like a healthy kid. He has no obesity. He's running around. He's doing all the little kid stuff. And you see there's no stagnation happening because he's not getting this in his diet at all. So he's not craving it because it's not there. But
Jenny,
the
you
other
make a
one,
really an awesome point. Like people say, oh, they're kids, so they can't be sick. I'm like, oh yeah, our kids are
Mhm.
sick, right? So we
Look
have,
at the grocery store kids. They weigh
right?
more than I do. Like,
Yeah, we have insulin resistance of the brain in pediatrics now, right? And
mhm,
so when you look at ADD, autism, there is definitely insulin resistance having an impact there, right? There are
mhm.
genetic components for sure.
Yep.
Genes load the gun, environment pulls the trigger. So,
Yes.
absolutely. And so we all, none of us want anything but the best for our next generation, for our kids. So give them exactly what their brains need. I always think of the brain as the ultimate organ, right? Our whole body is just a way of transporting our brains around, right? So give those beautiful brains exactly what they need. They need omega-3, they need B vitamins, they need, all of these nutrients that they aren't getting through a carbohydrate-based, glucose-based diet, right? Instead, it
Mhm.
just fuels the insulin resistance and learning disorders and mood disorders. Look at how many kids are now on SSRIs for anxiety and
Oh my
depression.
God. At like 9, 10.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's heartbreaking on so many levels, right? And good luck coming off of that. We know that the longer you are on an SSRI, the harder it is, right? So, yeah, I just think the number needed to treat is a key metric in medicine. Like how many people do you have to give this treatment to in order to have an effect, right?
Mhm.
And so you look at things like, statins, maybe 1 in 250, like you have to give 250 people a statin before you're going to get a benefit, maybe potentially.
Mhm.
And likewise, SSRIs, it's a high number too, but I think the number needed to treat from a meat-based diet is probably 1, right?
Mhm.
It's it
Mhm.
has such a profound impact so quickly, right? Again, but you have to deal with, in the case of children, the addictive patterns of the parents, right? So, what's
Yeah.
your food conception? What food
Well,
environment
it's
are you creating?
treat
Yes,
behavior, right? And it's like you want to treat yourself. You're not, your kids don't need that. You want to treat yourself, and you
yeah,
want to teach your children. And this is my conversation with my friend is, we know you have a food addiction. She's 5 foot
yeah,
one. When I met her, she was 190 pounds. So
yeah.
through Ozempic, she's had a weight loss. It's not, I don't agree to the weight loss, but it is what it is.
It
She's at a
is, yeah,
healthier weight for her body, at least. But we know that you have food pattern problems, and you're teaching this to your 4-year-old and your 9-year-old. You're teaching them, I do good today equals I deserve treat, or
yes,
I feel unhappy, food gives me comfort. And
yes,
you're
yeah,
teaching them, oh, you graduated from primary school today, here's ice cream. And I said,
yeah,
what you're teaching them is the same behavior at 20. When they're sad, they're going to go get drunk.
yeah,
When they're upset, they're going to go get high. Because all
yeah,
you've done is teach them, we navigate an uncomfortable feeling by comforting ourselves with X. And generally, a lot
yes,
of that is food.
yeah,
And and yet I see Selena's little one, and he's like asking for his little like raw egg smoothie that he drinks
yeah,
in the morning, right? That's what he wants. And that's
yeah,
that. I obviously have conversations with Selena's child every day because Aunt Jenny and Selena's boy needs to have their combos. But
Yeah,
Look,
it's
any
funny.
any day you can talk to somebody under the age of 10, it's a good day, right?
yeah,
Because
it
Right?
is.
it
Yeah,
is. They see the world for what it is, right? And
yeah,
Yeah.
that every day they wake up, they're just grateful for this day. And they're
Mhm.
living in the moment, they're living in the now. And
yeah,
instinctively, they know, like, kids don't want to eat vegetables a lot of the time for good reason, right?
Yep.
And instead, we convinced them, "No, no, no, you must have that." And I did that, right? I'm like,
yeah.
"No, no, no, you have to
Oh,
eat broccoli, you have to try the cauliflower." But at the same time, now I realize that, no, you do not need those
yeah,
vegetables. You don't need the fruit, you just need the meat. So,
yeah.
and I'd
I
be
did
curious,
that with my first
what's
one.
in the egg smoothie?
Oh, so we take raw eggs. He, depending on his morning, it's anywhere between 3 to 4 raw eggs,
Yeah.
a splash of milk, sometimes some honey, just
Yeah,
like I'm talking like
yeah, yeah.
blend it up, and that's he calls it his eggnog smoothie. So,
Oh, isn't that
so
sweet?
he's like, "Can I have
Yeah,
my eggnog smoothie now, Mom?" Which is great. I've said this a few times on different podcasts. We were very concerned because my husband and I, when we transitioned to full carnivore, we were really worried because we couldn't get him to eat anything.
Wow.
And it was
Yeah.
like, what are we going to do? Like, I can't get him to eat any of these foods. I can't get him to eat any meat. I can't get it. Like, it was like not happening.
Yeah.
And there was one day where I had pulled out some ribeyes. I had set them on the counter to rest, and our counter is like a shared cross island living room kitchen space.
Yeah.
And I had pulled them on the counter to rest, and I was going to cook them in about an hour. And he was sitting there. I had turned around to get something out of the cabinet and prepare whatever for the oven. I don't know, pan or foil or something, right? And when I turned around, he had taken that raw steak and he was just going to town. And I was like, I mean, I bawled my eyes out that day because it was just like, oh, you don't want it cooked.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've just been delivering it wrong to you. Oh, I see.
right. And of course, fortunately, because of all of the beautiful people that we do get to be exposed to through these communities, I wasn't afraid of the fact that he wanted raw steak. Whereas 2 years before, I would have been kind of freaking out going, oh my gosh, I don't think this is safe. I probably need to do something. Yeah. But that moment changed everything.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you're just a raw baby. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Like this is, as this year particularly has gone on, we have progressed to a little bit of optional cooked foods from time. But I mean, he really
it's quite lovely.
right. He's pretty like, happy with that. And then it dawned on me at one day when I was like, somebody was, drinking their eggs raw. It was one of the bodybuilder people. And I was like, oh man, my dad used to do that a lot when I was little because my dad was a bodybuilder. And I was like, he wasn't sick. He wasn't, like he didn't
get salmonella.
Right. And I was like, I bet that's fine. And I started kind of doing a little bit of research one day, and there was a company where I grew up called Orange Julius, and they invented Orange Julius's, which when I was little, as a vegan vegetarian child, that was fine for me to have. But I remember there was a whole thing that happened where they had to change their formula because part of their ingredients used to include raw blended eggs in their Orange Julius smoothies, their original formula. And they had to change it. And I was like, well, if they were serving it to the nation too, like this is definitely fine, right? Like this is okay. So I blended up 2 eggs. I put in a splash of milk, and he downed it faster than I could count 3. And I was like, okay, all right, here we go.
He's a wild baby. He's ready to go.
Oh, and just his brains, egg yolks. I look at egg yolks and liver, like nature's multivitamins, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think 1998 that they discovered that the choline in egg yolk is and liver, the 2 best sources of choline on Earth, is directly linked to neural development, right? And so we know mothers that eat more eggs while pregnant have babies with higher IQs, right? So that little guy of yours, he's just building his brain.
Oh, yeah, he is. Believe me.
It with him.
Yeah, he is.
He questions.
I'm pretty sure he's smarter than me right now. So
you can just see
watching his questioning is just, that's it, right? It's when you engage with him, he thinks so profoundly. I'm also sure he's actually 600 years old and just trapped in his 4-year-old body, but he speaks so profoundly. It's like you're speaking with one of like the Stoics. Like he's such a brilliant, profound thinker, especially for his age. Like he told me once, Jenny, I know you from before. And I said, oh yeah. He's like, you look different though. He said, it's okay. And then he said, don't get scared. And then he just left. And I was like, okay. Thank you for introducing past life concepts into my day today. I'm here for it. But yeah. And then he's like, don't be upset though. It's okay.
Yeah, don't.
And then he just runs off, like, see you later, bye. Right? He just
something for you to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah, just think, I mean, out of the mouth of babes, always it's like, he's just he thinks in the capacity that like a lot of the adults I know don't think in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're watching his little brain just
Oh man.
analyzing everything, right? We're
Yeah.
just going to talk about your son today,
I
Selena. That's where
noticed.
we're at. But
Okay. It's all right. The internet doesn't really get to see him, so they'll at least get to hear about him.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Protect them that way. And I think that
Oh
that's
yeah.
yeah.
hard. Like it's, I know I respect a lot of people that are, able to put their kids out there and include their
Oh,
carnivore
same.
life. And I feel like until, they can really give consent, it's a lot of
Yeah.
it's assuming more. So yeah,
And the
Yeah.
world is
I
also
totally,
scary. And I have an
yeah.
interesting question for you, Jocelyn. It's not an interesting question. I'm sure you get asked this all the time. But we all know in the space that we're in, and whether that's Selena and I sort of working in this space with the Global Roots Network, or if we're working more in a carnivore space, we're talking to people about holistic healing and health
Mhm.
across the board. We get a lot of aggression and a lot of you don't know what you're talking about. But I'm interested from a doctor's perspective. Do people push as hard against you because you have the education? They can't say, well, you don't know what you're talking about because you do have the education.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. But I'm curious to know what the online community feels about your work.
There's a lot of angry people out there. That
Because they're
I just
dysregulated.
Oh, yeah, I feel like, we need a series of T-shirts, be more lovey, less judgy, right? Can we all
Yes,
just, kind of
yes.
assume positive intent
Yeah.
instead of always negative? But yeah, I have a lot of people. There was one guy, and it was public, so I don't mind, putting it out there. Dr. Ali or Dr. Allo, I can't remember. He's a cardiologist in the States, I believe, but he said, "Stay to your profession." Right? Because basically, and he's a cardiologist. So, a lot of what I'm saying is that, LDL is, cholesterol is a nutrient. It's not a disease, right? We have
Yes.
demonized it. But if we're going down, but I was in med school, statins became huge and they were thinking like, don't bother going into cardiovascular surgery because there's not going to be a need for it. We're going to be able to just give people
That's going to heal
statins
the
and they won't
world.
have
Yeah.
heart attacks, right? That's not worked,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, we've had these wrong narratives, but yeah, and it's true. I haven't had, my education on nutrition from medical school was about an hour, and I learned about nutritional deficiencies like pellagra, beriberi, kwashiorkor, scurvy, right? Things that we just don't see, right?
Are not
But that was
prevalent in
the
this society.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
instead, since then, I said, well, I will go and get my American Boards of Obesity Medicine. So I did that training and passed those exams in order to say, like, I have done a deep dive on how the physiology of obesity and its prevention works, right? And then I did my metabolic health practitioners training through the Nutrition Network and the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners. So that I'm like, yeah, actually, I've done additional training specifically just on the impact of nutrition
Right.
and therapeutic approach to ketosis through nutrition, right? So yeah, there's a lot of people that I feel like, again, if you can kind of diminish them and in their training, and people call me all sorts of things, and that's been like that since the beginning. I'd walk in with a medical student, I'd be doing rounds, and I'd have a young man beside me that'd be a medical student or maybe a resident, and they'd assume I was the nurse and the person beside me was the doctor, right? I'm like, well, actually, that's just
Oh,
yeah. No, that's not the case. I know I'm
surprise.
just a little, but I've done a lot of training to be here. So yeah, and I get it. Everybody's on a journey, and I feel like, again, if somebody can kind of diminish somebody, then and project themselves higher, then
Yeah.
that's one strategy. But it's just not the way I like to roll.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I think
Yeah,
we're both in that same boat where it's
yeah,
like there is a very strong foundation when you can agree to disagree and still
yes,
keep walking. Like,
yeah,
you
Mhm.
don't necessarily have to eliminate those people or, whatever. You can go, you know what? We can agree to disagree. There was a point in time in our society where it was okay to debate, disagree, and have ideas that did not complement each other. as
we learn.
family, friends. And, you know, there might have been some really heated discussions, but at the end of the day, they might have still sat down and had dinner with their uncle, their cousin, their whoever.
Yeah.
And we've lost that in our societies. We have lost
division.
that.
And
Yeah.
divided,
And
right? And I think if you look at somebody and it's okay, you can look at the polarity, like you're a vegan, I'm a carnivore, you're right wing, I'm left wing, you're male, I'm female, like whatever this division is. We probably have more in common than the one thing we're divided on.
Yeah.
Like you probably also have a family that you love. You probably also have a job that you're passionate about. You probably also have things in your life you're interested in. Maybe it's fitness, maybe it's whatever, right? And if we sat down and we gave that conversation an opportunity, rather than just saying, I hate you because you represent something I don't,
right.
and I had an interesting moment the other day on there's a girl I follow and she does a lot of like just funny post 40 content. And she made a video being like, one guy was like, women age terribly. She posted the comment and then she posted like men aging, like showing like male pattern balding and obesity and blah, 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 blah. And it was just a funny video. And so I commented something on it and some guy came back at me quippy and I came back at him quippy. And then we ended up being like, hang on a second. Wait, like, are we making the same joke, but we're just coming after each other? And we ended up having this super long conversation in her thread where it turned into this like hilarious moment of friendship. He followed me, I followed him back, and I was like, "Are we best friends now?" And he's like, "We might be, yeah." And it was just hilarious because we took a moment to be like, "Wait, I think we're making the same joke, but we're just coming at it from a different angle, and we're attacking each other for literally no reason." And I'm not one to fight. Like I was when I came to the internet space, and people would come after me.
Like,
The Romanian switch flips, right? Like that thick Eastern European blood flowing through my veins gets real hot real fast. But I'm not much of a fighter now. But I'll be quippy with you, right? If I'm in a sassy mood and you're sassy with me, I'll be sassy back. I'm okay with that. I'm a smart girl. I'm cool with it. But that one was an interesting one because we took the moment to have like a commonality instead of a division, and it turned into this hilarious. She, like the original creator, even and she was like, "What happened here?" Like we followed this whole series of comments back and forth where we were just joking, and it turns out this guy is like super passionate about men's health, and he mistook my quip thinking I was like hating on men. And I was like, I love men. I think men's health is incredibly important. This is a massive thing. I am not like rah rah women forget men. I think men are incredibly important. I don't see women and men as, divided aspects. I think we were very complementary to each other, and it just turned into this great. There doesn't need to be this polarity of like, oh, I only care about the well-being of women. That's ridiculous. I care about the well-being of everybody. I don't care if you're male or female or young or old. I care about everyone's well-being equally. That's all that matters. But it was just funny to see a moment of like, oh, okay, good, here we go. We're gonna have like somebody's gonna be quippy and I'm gonna be quippy. And then I went to his page and I'm like, you're like a men's health advocate. Hang on a second here. We're like identically the same. Turns out to be like this great conversation, and now we chat back and forth. It's great. So
I think
it's a rare internet moment, but
yeah, but what a wonderful, admirable thing that you both did. That you both, saw. Actually, no, we are way more similar, and we are actually kind of, going down the same path.
There was no hate. It was like a quip, right? It was like a joke, a joke, a joke, a joke, and I'm like, hang on, we have the same sense of humor. Why are we fighting? This could be hilarious. Like, there's no reason for us to fight, but.
Yeah.
I think the internet's like that. I think, and that was why I had that question for you, because I mean, I know Selena and I get a lot of aggression and hateful comments and things like that. And I was interested to hear the impact if you have the medical degree to back it up, if everybody who likes to say you're whatever, right? But nope, it's just, we're all a free for all. Okay, cool. Love the internet for that.
Yeah. It's all, we're all equalized, right? And that's okay, right? And that, again, I'm not for everybody, right? But I feel like the more we can kind of get out there, even not everybody has to be carnivore, right?
No.
But I don't think you can truly thrive without meat making up most of your plate, right?
Agreed.
And
Absolutely.
so even if we can just get people eating more meat, right? That'll be huge.
I think that's that's another hot topic within a lot of the people in our community, where there is this sickness, let me put it that way, that's rolling through the carnivore world of such extreme dogmatic, and it's like it's this way or no matter what, or you're doing it wrong, or that's still trash. And I go, I hear you, but how is it helping people if we're so strict and we're so dogmatic that they're not even willing to cross the street to come look at our booth?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Like it's not that, we can't educate beyond that, but if we can't even help people baby step their way to where they feel a little bit better, and then maybe we can talk about them going, well, you know what? We're still experiencing this. We should probably consider, maybe we take this out for a couple of weeks. Let's see how you feel. It's like walk
Love
them.
and compassion.
Yes.
Love and compassion go a long way.
Beat them over the head with a ribeye and go, you're being stupid.
Well, I mean, if you look at most people and they take sugar and seed oils out of their diet alone, carbohydrate, sugar, and seed oils out of their diet, that's brought 90% of society, 90% of the way, right?
Yeah.
If they're still eating avocado or some berries, or they love their vegetables and that's just their thing, it's a lot better than pasta and pasta sauce or McDonald's or potato chips and chocolate bars. My mom's next door neighbor is 35, and I've watched this man gain 100 pounds in the last 2 years from every single meal is takeout. Takeout, 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 joint, 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 cigarette, 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 takeout, takeout, takeout. And my mom's literally like, do you want me to cook for you? And he's like, no, I don't like home cooked food. And my mom's like, I'll just do it. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of just saying, if you're not like me, you're not valuable, right? Like maybe you're a raw carnivore. You can't look at a carnivore who eats meat and be like, you're wrong. Or a carnivore who's meat-based and they still eat some berries or some avocados or some vegetables and be like, you're not doing enough for your healing.
Yeah.
They've done a lot to get there in the society where comfort is everything. It's at every angle you turn.
Yeah.
It's comfort, comfort, comfort. At every angle you turn is societal pressure for alcohol, for bad food, for treats, for whatever. If somebody's brought themselves far enough that they're already eating mostly meat and like some vegetables or some fruits or some honey, whatever, I think you congratulate them and you celebrate them for that journey. And then if they come to you asking for more, you help them figure it out. But we have to lead from the front. And when you're pointing the finger, you're turning around. You're not driving forward, right? You're turning around and pointing back. And that's not leadership.
Yeah.
Sad.
And we point fingers. There's one finger pointing ahead and three fingers pointing back.
Right.
Exactly.
Sam knew where you're going with that.
Exactly.
I don't know what this weird hand signal turned into that I went with, but here we are.
I feel like none of them are pointing back at me.
I don't know what's happening.
I'm not in this.
It's the morning. I'm confused.
The opposite. People think that the opposite of love is hate. It's not hate. The opposite of love is fear.
Right? Yeah,
absolutely.
And so I feel like so much of the anger and the fear out there, they're linked, right? It's insecurity. But I love and I'm not sure if you guys ever read the book by Carol Dweck, but it's called Mindset. And it's just about, we have either a very fixed mindset, like everything has to be done just this way. And if it's not done this way, if it's not perfect, we can't proceed, right? But then there's growth mindset, right? And medicine has got a very fixed mindset. It always has to be done this way. Don't question me. I am the authority figure in this room. There's no way I can be wrong, right? I've done this way for 20 years. I'm not going to change. But growth mindset, that's where the magic is. And I feel like a lot of the carnivore space is in a growth mindset. We're willing to step off the path. We're willing to eat and live in a way that the rest of the world might not, right? And so let's encourage that more and more. Let's grow that growth mindset and encouraging people, right? Even if, like, the first thing I ask people to do is, can you just start eating more fatty meat? right? And actually eat fat. And there's so many people that are fat phobic, right? They think if I
Oh,
eat the
yeah.
fat, it's going to kill me. It's going
Oh
to give me
God.
heart disease. It's going to, absolutely. And so just start eating the fatty meat. And then next, could we get rid of the grains? Could we
Yeah.
get rid of the sugar? Could we get rid of the seed oils, right? But nourish yourself first. Because I feel like we have co-epidemics of obesity with malnourishment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they
Mm-hmm.
have people that have been just consuming mostly a carb-based diet for decades are profoundly malnourished, right?
Well, and you
And
see
even though
people
they were,
go the whole like, oh, well, I eat that and I'm fine. And you're like, but the human body is insanely incredible. Like it will leach nutrients out of whatever it can to stay alive. But just
yeah,
because you're staying alive at this bare minimum does not mean that you're in good metabolic health at
Yeah.
all.
absolutely, yeah,
And you
Yeah.
might be
the
fine
difference,
right now at 20, but at
yeah,
30 or 40, I'm similar to yourself,
Yeah.
Jocelyn. I came into this with really severe diverticulitis, which was at the point of almost, well, no, it was at the point of requiring surgery. And I'd been on antibiotics for a year. And similarly, everybody was like, yeah, but like you're on the meds, it's fine.
yeah,
You'll be okay. And I'm thinking, if I'm 30 at that point, I was 35, I'm 30 and I'm this sick. How sick am I going to be at 50 or 60 or 70? Like
Exactly.
I'm gonna die. I'm not going to make it to 70. I can't
yeah,
live like this with this distended gut and this like horrific pain. But you see that especially in the like 20 and 30-year-olds now that are, well, I'll start training when I'm 40.
Yeah.
It'll
yes,
be fine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you know how
yeah,
fit I would be right now if I had started this when I was 20 years old? I'd be unstoppable. I'd be like the Hulk. I wouldn't, because my Eastern European genes make me like long and lean. But, I think how many of us in this space right now wish we knew what we knew 10 years ago, 20
oh,
years ago, 30 years ago, right?
absolutely,
Hmm.
100%
And
of
you
us
look
wish
and you
we
go, I
decades
want to
earlier.
shake you, young
Yeah.
people, or people my own age who still are going, I'll start when I'm 50. I'll worry about when I'm 60. Oh, I work out one day a week, it's fine. And you
Yeah,
just want to shake them and say, start now because you don't know what's happening on the inside. You have no idea what's
there's
happening to your organs.
no time to waste, right?
No
And
time
that's
to
it.
waste.
We do need
Exactly.
that no bullshit, like like you
Hmm.
and so many people they just don't know how diseased they are, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I got some edema, yeah, I got some depression, yeah, I got some reflux, yeah, I got my blood sugar's up a little bit, but I'm okay. I'm fine, right? And I say
Yeah.
fine is a four-letter word. It's the worst four-letter word out there, right? How's your blood work?
Exactly.
Fine. Right? No, what's my number? A1C, what are my triglyceride to HDL ratios? Like and until we become our own CHOs, our chief health officers, right? Because I
Hmm.
Hmm.
I deal with a lot of patients that, like I'll ask, and I hate to stereotype, but typically it's like middle-aged men that come for an operation, hernia repair or something, and they've got their partner beside them. And I'll start asking their history and they keep looking at their wife and like, can you answer this for me? I'm like, this is your health, right? Like, what are you doing for you? Right. And so that's, people realize that, we all got to look after ourselves, right? And
Hmm.
that impact of our dietary choices, our lifestyle choices on the people around us, right?
Hmm.
So, when you have a partner or you have children, like I have a moral responsibility to look after myself so that my husband doesn't have to do more work for me. My kids don't have to do more work for
Exactly.
me, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I feel like there almost needs to be a consent process. Like if someone chooses, like I'm not going to address my alcohol addiction, I'm not going to address my smoking addiction, I'm not going to address my food addiction, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Well, that's pretty shitty, and that is
Mhm.
incredibly selfish. And I have a huge amount of empathy for addiction.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Same.
My mom died at 64 from a hemorrhagic stroke as a smoker, right? And that devastated me. And she was one of the most brilliant people I ever met, and yet she couldn't think her way from cigarettes, right? And
Yeah.
so how can we get people to realize the impact of their choices on everybody that they love around them? And if you won't do it for yourself, will you do it for them?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I have a whole experience about how, it's not I'm not a fair kind of person in the sense of like, oh, that's not fair. But in
yeah,
in the same shot, there's like this perspective that I go, it's really not a just position to be like my parents, right? In that generation. Well, it's like, well, you're going to take care of us. Okay, but what are you doing? But what are you doing to negate this being a situation that is a hellscape for both of us?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to go, okay, I'm going to help take care of you if something happens and you're no longer able. But here we are, you're in your 60s and you can barely walk.
Yeah.
And you're in here and you're doing this. And it's this expectation and there's this guilt. And you're not coming over to help us. And and I'm like, you're 63.
Yeah.
You're just now midlife. Like,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What steps are you taking? Are you actually considering what you're deciding to do is what affects how you're going to be taken care of? Because that's
Yes.
not right for me as a parent of as a mother. I look at it and I go, holy crap, I have got to get this stuff into gear because I had a little one at 38 years old. I plan. My goal, my entire existence is based on, well, I've got to be 100 minimum. That is just bare minimum.
Yeah.
And not just I'm going to live to be 100 and you guys are going to suffer changing my diapers. No, I'm going to be 100 walking down to see my great grandchildren as they're getting married. That's my 100. Not let me change my diapers, but I'm still alive and you guys get to suffer taking care of me. No, that's a load of bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think we need to call that out more, right? That, how people are choosing to live on their daily basis. Like, have you talked to your kids about this? Are they okay with looking after you, right? And it's we know so many people. I call it the panini press years, right? Like, especially women, but men too. That they're looking after kids, and they're looking after their parents, and they're looking after their partner, and they're not looking after themselves.
Yeah.
Right. That oxygen mask isn't going on. They're just holding their breath and looking after everybody else's concerns and needs and not their own. Right. And then their cortisol's way up and their HRV is way down, that they're super stressed, and it's not fair. Right. And it's assumed so often that, oh, you'll do this. Like, oh, no, that's not fair.
Well,
And
we've been told in our household. We've been told. And I go,
oh, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I
And so
told my mom, I was like, I love you, Mom,
Can you help
but
me?
you chose to have me, not the other way around. And I did not ask for the responsibility of your care. So you're going to have to get yourself in line. My mom was resistant to a diet change. It took me, I don't know, Selena, how long did it take me? About a year, I think, to get her to like fix.
About a
My
year.
mom so I lost my dad in 2000. So my mom's been alone for quite some period of time. And I mean, unfortunately for her, she was 49 when she lost her husband. So she was a young widow. My dad died in a car accident. There wasn't a health thing involved. And my mom loves to cook. That's her thing.
Yeah.
Like, my mom is Martha Stewart 101, right? Like, decorating, gardening, cooking, like, could be Martha Stewart. She's not as much of a gangster, but like, she kind of is. But she kind of is. My mom hasn't done time, but like, she's kind of a gangster. But as the years went on, and I moved out at 18 to go to university, and so she's been on her own for 21 years. And she got into bad diet routines because she loves to experiment with cooking. And so she ended up in this pasta 4 times a week because it was so easy to make all these different flavors, right? Or like basically eating mostly chicken as her protein source, not eating eggs at all, eating cereal, eating toast.
Yeah.
And she got into that pattern. And she ended up with, I mean, my mom's had arthritis for a number of years. She was a hairstylist. So she's a hairstylist in the 60s and 70s when they didn't have the pump up chairs. So her posture was very hips forward, shoulders rounded because she had to lean to cut hair, and she's developed that shape in her body.
Mhm.
Now, my mom's a very lean woman. She's super strong. She does keep her, because she does her gardening and her cleaning and whatever, but she started falling down from the pain in her feet. So she would walk and she would get pain from her arthritis and she would physically fall to the ground. And so I had to sit her down and say, look, I know you think my diet is stupid, but if there's anything in the world my mom is, she's competitive. And I was like, I'm going to challenge you to 6 weeks of just keto. You don't have to give up your stupid vegetables and whatever, but like 6 weeks of keto. I'm going to teach you how to do it. It's going to be okay. We're going to do this. We're going to do it right through Christmas because I was like, I don't eat anything anyway. So what do you need to make pies and stuff for? I'm not going to eat it. So let's just not make it.
Let's
And
make some
she went
kick-ass
right
roasts.
through.
Yes.
Let's make some roasts, right? And then I said, as we got into December and I started seeing a lot of her, like her energy was way up. My mom's hypoglycemic. She had no hypoglycemic incidences. Her, insulin was regulated, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, so January 1st, I'm challenging you to 1 month of carnivore. Just 1 month. And she was like, well, I'm not one to back down from a challenge. And so she did. She did her whole month of carnivore. Literally, I'm just gaslighting my mom into wellness, but that's my thing. Yeah. So we got her there. And all of a sudden she's like, oh, going into all of this, my pain was at like 20 out of 10. And now it's like 1 out of 10. Right. So she came out the other side of January. This was a year ago. And she's went back to meat based. So she still eats some of her vegetables. But she has removed all of her cereals, all of her toasts, all of her pasta. The only carb she eats now is like rice, maybe once every 2 weeks. And she's extremely cognizant. And she's just saying, now she's trying to get through to all of her older friends, being like, you gotta listen to me. I know the way to health. And I'm like, yeah, a year ago you told me I was going to die from this, but that's all right. I gaslit you into this belief system, and here we are. It's fine. So elder parents, I recommend just gaslight them. It's fine. Tell them they can't, and then they will.
What an incredible a conversion, right? And like you basically kind of held up that, you want to get rid of your pain, let's get rid of your inflammation, right? And it's interesting.
My background's psychology, so I like to play with the mind of it, but that's okay.
You know which buttons to push on which people, right? So that's but and anesthesia, so much of what we do is acute pain but also chronic pain. And so there's one doc I worked with and trained with, and she spent 30 years doing chronic pain. And believe me, the system remunerates you very handsomely if you'll stick needles in people over and over again, right? And so that's why, and a lot of people are motivated by that. They go down that road. But this one woman, one doc, she said, 30 years ago, I injected everybody. And now I barely pick up a needle, right? I tell people, you are leading an inflammatory lifestyle, and that's why you're in chronic pain, right? So let's get the smokes, the bread, the sugar, the seed oils out of your life, and then come back and talk to me, right? And so if you really, and chronic pain, it's so hard to get in to see a chronic pain doc. And if, you finally made it here, these are the rules for me to treat you. You have to get rid of this stuff, and then we'll talk, right? And even in anesthesia, like so often, like when I do an anesthetic, I try very much to avoid opiates, right? Because I feel like every recovery room needs to have a banner that says addiction starts here, right? We have an epidemic. So I try to give non-opiate base anesthetic as possible, right? And so I push other things. I give everybody magnesium, and it's amazing as an analgesic, right? Because it works at something called the NMDA antagonist. So it works at the NMDA receptors to decrease perception of pain, right? And so if we can do simple things like this and just, again, look at things from a different perspective, walk off the path, do a little do some research, we can change these outcomes. And again, for chronic pain, I feel like the best thing we can do is, people believe in all these antioxidants, right? What are they for? They're for inflammation. Just fire, right?
Stop rid of the inflammation.
Yes, then you don't so many antioxidants, right? But instead, people think, "Oh, I'll have more blueberries." It's not a blueberry deficiency.
Yeah. Nobody's deficient in blueberries.
No, yeah,
Right? No. That is
yeah,
so funny though. My experience I thought was interesting when I had my last child. My eyes were being opened up so much more so than my first. So it was like a complete different perspective during that one. And with my first one, I was already like very hesitant towards a lot of medicines and things like that anyways, just because the way my mom raised me, very, hippy dippy, holistic. What can we do differently? Most of it was all plants, but
yeah.
that she did her best. And, um, so going into my next one, when I had my son, my second, the thing I found that actually it made me angry while I was there the day after giving birth is the nurses came in several times a day pushing Percocet.
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
not just not just like, do you need anything? How is your pain? And starting from that point, but literally like attempting to pressure guilt me because I
Yeah.
refused to take it. And I refused to take ibuprofen or Tylenol or whatever. It was like I was not taking it, and they were like, "It's fine. It's safe for the baby." And I'm like, I'm breastfeeding." So I'm like, "I'm not now. Sorry, back then." I'm like, "Let me clarify. Wait a minute. Where we're at in life." But I was like, "But I'm breastfeeding. I know that gets passed through to the
Yeah,
child."
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
she was like, "But you need to be comfortable." And I'm like, I'm comfortable enough. Whatever pain and uncomfortableness that I am handling, I am meant to endure.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm meant to experience this so that my child has the best that he possibly can have, which is not Percocet,
Yeah.
which is not like, but it was such a pressure. So for somebody who does not have a strong foundation within themselves to say no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is, in my opinion, a crime
Oh,
because
absolutely. And
it felt like by the third time that I said no, the nurse literally rolled her eyes in disgust at me
yeah,
that I was not willing to take the prescription medicine.
I'm going to have to chart this now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if
Difficult
you,
patient.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it drives me crazy because, people, so, you have an internal nidus of control. You realize that you have control and impact on your destiny, right? And there are a lot of people
Yeah.
that have an external nidus of control. They think the life is happening to them, that they
Right.
aren't choosing. And so those
Yeah.
people that don't feel control, they look to something else. They look to the Percocet,
Exactly.
right? And
Mhm.
medicine has failed humans in
Yeah.
so many ways. But what happened with Purdue Pharma in the late 1990s, right? And the corruption of medicine, convincing physicians that
Yeah.
opiates aren't addictive. We've
Yeah.
known they've been addicted for centuries, and
Yeah.
yet we completely get blindsided
Yeah.
and brainwashed. And I remember, I was part of that problem, right? I took the bait too. Now my docs, my preceptors told me, no, 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 it's opiates aren't just for cancer anymore, right? They're for, breastfeeding moms, right? And
Yeah.
Mhm.
but we know that so many, like codeine in particular, gets passed
Mm.
through the breast milk. And depending on the
Yeah.
metabolism of the mom and the baby, there are ones that are hypermetabolizers and turn more of that codeine into morphine. And then
Yeah.
the baby's not breathing so much, right? Yeah.
I usually do that. They say I have a codeine sensitivity in my charts.
Yeah. So
And I'm
you
like,
might be a
"Okay."
hyper metabolizer. Some people, interesting, those people that take SSRIs, and about 8% of the population don't actually metabolize codeine to morphine. So it's like if you have a Tylenol 3, it's just like having Tylenol, right? But then there's the
Oh, wow.
opposite. Then there are people that are the hyper metabolizers, right? And seeing your red hair, we know redheads metabolize in ways that are very
Yeah.
different to medications, but
Yeah.
hyper metabolizers take a little bit of codeine and turn it into a lot of morphine, right? So
I used to dye my hair really dark, and I remember when I went in for my hemithyroidectomy, I remember the anesthesiologist, she looked at me and she was like, "Are you a natural redhead?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Okay." And she was like, "You still feel some of this, don't you?" And I was like, "Mhm." And
yeah.
she was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
But
because redheads, they do metabolize a lot faster, and so they take more local anesthetic. They might take more pain medication, and certainly we know also have different clotting ability, so they
yeah.
tend to bleed more too, right? So, and for
Yeah, oh yeah.
hemithyroid, we're
Sounds
always
fun.
your spidey senses are tingling because if you get a neck hematoma, that can be life-threatening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember they treated me very carefully, but I was great. Was grateful.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful, wonderful team in that experience, and I was grateful. With my second son, I ended up with an emergency C-section, and I was also very well blessed to have a really good team who knew how to handle not just the situation with my son, but all my freak instances too. So
Yeah.
I love
that
that for
was
you because last time
was
I had
good.
surgery, I scratched the doctor and I woke up tied to the bed, and they were like, and I was like, this when I had my colonoscopy, and they put me under anesthetic when they were trying to diagnose my diverticulitis, and the guy goes, "Okay, you're gonna fall asleep. Count backwards from 10," and I got to 0, and I was like, "Am I supposed to be asleep?" And he's like, "You're supposed to be, but we're gonna have to give you a little bit more." Gives me a second dose. We get back to 0 again, and he's like, "You weigh
Is it working?
121 pounds. How is this?" Hey, ask me, "Are you a redhead?" Because I had dyed hair at that time. I said no. He's like, "Okay." Then I go to sleep. Then I wake up and I'm just awake. And he goes, "Are you awake?" And I was like, "Yeah, am I not supposed to be?" And he's like, "Well, most people are a little bit groggy when they come out of it." And he's like, "But for some reason, as we were finishing the procedure, you started violently attacking us." And he's like, "You were scratching the doctor, and we had to tie you down." And he's like, "We thought you'd have like a rough wake up, but I just went from like asleep to awake and like sat right up." And I was like, "Why am I tied down?" He's like, "You are violent for a small girl. That is why you are tied down." He's like, "But you're awake now. It's okay." And and I had like scratched this man badly.
Hey, fresh.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And he said, "That's okay. We're just gonna mark this in your chart. Wakes up violently." I said, "Okay." He's like, "You are mean for a small girl." I'm like, "Yeah, sorry about that." But yeah,
That Romanian blood.
it's the Romanian blood. Yeah, yeah. I think I'm an anesthetic nightmare too. But I mean that it's the same here. I'm thinking like of all these Percocet conversations, and a number of years ago, I had a mandibular and maxillary reconstruction, and I was wired shut for 8 weeks. And what did they give me? Like oxys that I had to crush into a powder, mix with water, and take. But I don't come from a drug family. I'm like Selena. My mom's extremely holistic. My mom was like, "We're not going to take those drugs. You're gonna just go through the pain, and it's going to be
Just
fine."
good.
And I did. It was fine. But like, they gave me so many oxys, it would have
Yeah.
drugged me down
Yeah.
for 2, 3 weeks. Like,
Look,
and I'm already
yeah.
dealing with a wired shut mouth. My head
Mhm.
was so swollen, my mom didn't recognize me when she came into the room after my surgery. And it was just like, and then the solution to that is just drug you down. That's how you're going to heal, like just like drugged out.
And
No.
imagine, so the number one side effect of opiates is nausea and vomiting. So
hmm
you've given somebody a
hmm
wired
Oh,
shut
yeah.
jaw, and now
hmm
you're giving them an agent that can very much increase the risk of vomiting. And
Well,
how's that
especially when you're
beneficial?
not eating any actual food. Unfortunately, that's a big nightmare. I wish if there's one thing in my life I could turn back, it would be my knowledge now because I would have just lived on bone broth. But at the
Yeah.
time, they gave us glycerna,
Yeah.
and Ensure as the food to eat. And I got 8 cavities in my mouth in the 8 weeks I was wired shut because you can't brush, right? All you can do is kind of rinse, but you're literally so swollen that you can breathe basically out of like the side of one of your lips. Like you can't even
That's
move
so
your mouth to
horrible.
like drink from a straw. So you have to like physically pull your mouth open and like inject it with this like syringe with a tube on the end. And I was like, I had never had a cavity in my life.
Yeah.
And then because there was so much sugar in this glycerna Ensure combo that they had me eating, it rotted my teeth. In 8 weeks, I got 8 cavities.
And I think too, like,
It was insane.
I wish more and more we could have continuous glucose monitors for patients post-operatively, because I think that's the
Yeah.
only thing that's going to convince doctors that,
Yeah.
we're actually just giving people diabetes
Yeah.
post-operatively, right? So
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
in a huge stress response. Their cortisol's up anyway. And then and so we do that in surgery now. We push carbohydrates preoperatively, immediately post-operatively, and into the recovery period. And yet at the same time, we're turning around and saying, gee whiz, our surgical site infections, and in your case, cavities, are way high. Isn't that odd?
Wonder why.
Maybe it's because all we're doing is
Right?
feeding the bacteria every glucose, right?
No, I'm
So,
just
but
thinking, like imagine just 8 weeks of glycerna, what that did to my
oh,
insulin, what that did to my gut health, what that did. Like now, knowing what I know, it just makes me shudder. Like
yeah,
it's shocking. But I still
yeah,
see it. I mean, my boyfriend's mom's a type 2 diabetic, and they very recently told her, "You're very underweight." She's a thin diabetic,
yeah,
and you need to meal replace. And they gave her an 8 pack of Glucerna, and they were like, "You should have
yeah.
one of these every single day." And it's literally like corn syrup, canola oil. Like there's not a
Yes.
single real ingredient in that product.
That's
Period.
so
And look,
Like,
sad.
and so I remember my nan. So, my nan was born 1919, and that was at a time when people didn't have easy access,
Yeah.
food meal replacements. Instead, you'd make a custard, right?
mhm.
So I remember growing up, and everybody, like, so and so had an operation. I'm going to bring her a custard. Oh,
Yeah.
so and so has pneumonia. I'm going to bring him a custard, right? So
Mhm.
everything was, which was really, and all it was is just egg and cream and a bit of butter,
Yeah.
and I think she put some sugar in it, but you can also make them savory. And they're delicious, right? But
Yeah.
we need more custards and bone broth and
Exactly.
simple
Yeah.
whole foods,
Yeah.
right? So just to ask ourselves, like, we aren't the first generation to go through surgery. Like, how did our ancestors, like, even, 70 years ago, how did they go through anesthetics? Well, they would eat nutrient dense foods post-operatively,
Mhm.
not this
Yeah.
carbohydrate crap, right? And
Mhm.
instead they didn't have, because they knew at the time of, penicillin's only been out since, I think, Fleming was like 1930s, 40s. So we haven't had access to antibiotics for a long time. Instead, with this new, give them real foods, right?
Mhm.
And that's where the healing is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We got it
Absolutely.
wrong right now. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like, and again, medicine is doubling down on it, right? So
Mhm.
until medicine says, how we treat, you know, medicine is exceptionally good at acute care, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
again, if you fall off a roof, if you
Yeah.
do get in a car accident, if you
Yes.
have an aneurysm, right? We can
Right?
save so
Yeah.
many people, and it's
Yes.
incredible. And it is when you see that orchestra of people working together as a team to save a life, it is mind-blowing. It's beautiful, right? But
Yeah.
we have, again, medicine has failed humans on chronic care, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We do not do chronic care well. We
No.
have taught the reflex of, there's high blood pressure, I can think of 10 different drugs I can use to treat that with, right? Instead
Yeah.
of saying, cut salt, dash, that doesn't work, right? Cut the
Yeah.
carbs, because essential hypertension isn't an unknown. It's because of insulin is elevated, right? So
Yeah.
get the carbohydrates out of your diet, and then all of a sudden the blood vessels relax. The intima, the inner lining, thins out. The kidney starts expelling more water and sodium. Blood pressure comes down, right? But
Mhm.
instead, doctors don't teach their patients this. Doctor in Latin means teacher,
Mhm.
right? And when you have a 10-minute visit, you don't have time for a lot of these docs to teach, right? And
Yeah.
that's a horrible thing we've done for humans. And that's another way that medicine has failed her society, right? That instead it's just enough time to give a prescription, not even talk about the risks of it, and just to pass that slip, right? Here's your prescription for Ozempic, because it's a lot faster to give you this than it is to sit down and talk to you about the lifestyle impacts, what's causing obesity, everything from your diet to your sleep to your stress, your activity. Instead, I'm just going to give you the script. And I've had patients come to the OR on Ozempic and then have thyroid nodules. I'm like, so if you have a thyroid nodule, you can't be taking Ozempic without knowing what's going on in that thyroid, right? And
Yep.
so many docs don't talk about the risks of pancreatitis, of gastroparesis, vision loss, bone loss, muscle
Oh my
loss,
God.
right?
Here, they're telling you, I told you, my friend's on Ozempic, and I gave her a list. And I said, I want you to talk to if you're not going to listen to me about diet, I want you to talk to your doctor about these risks. Exactly what you just listed. And she says to me, well, we're in Canada, doctors don't get any extra bonuses for prescribing things. So I know what she's prescribing. She just means it from the heart because in Canada, they don't get any additional bonuses. And I was like, okay, that's fair. And so I said, take this list, have a conversation with her. And her doctor literally looked her in the face and said, well, you work out at least once a week and you mostly eat a good diet. You're not at any risk of any of those things.
Yeah, not at any risk. Yeah. And I think, and I really feel there is a role for GLP-1s, GIPs, these
Right.
medications. The
Mhm.
best thing we can do is to get people to be able to address their food addictions, right?
Mhm.
That is, I think, the greatest power of these drugs, but to use the lowest effective dose for the least amount of time. And then,
Yeah.
but then to be able to say, it turns down the food noise for people, to be able to get that space away from the addictive
Yeah.
foods. And the addictive foods are always carbohydrates. They're always
They
carbs, right?
Every time.
We can always think of somebody that's addicted to ice cream or addicted to
Yeah.
chips or to French fries, whatever it is. Nobody's addicted to pork chops.
No.
No, it
No.
doesn't happen. So then
No.
if we can get people that space to be able to say, okay, I'm not hearing that food noise. I'm not hearing that addiction so much. I will just eat nutrient dense. Then it's like a reset. They can have that opportunity to say, okay, what do I need to nourish myself? Right. So if
Yeah.
people can start thinking about not just eating for hunger, but eating for nourishment, right? What's in this for me? Right. And
Yeah.
so often I think of, the case of bread, right? That bread is very high in anti-nutrients like phytic acid and gluten,
Yeah.
right? And lectins. And so, those little kids that are, have one chance to grow a body, right? You get one shot and
Yeah.
you're taking in all this phytic acid, which is going to bind your zinc and then decrease your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, going to affect how
Yeah.
much you grow. Yeah, but people, again, I think if we had nutrition labels that were really accurate, they would include the anti-nutrients too, right?
Yes.
So what's in it
Agreed.
for me and what's fighting against my nutrients.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
I think I couldn't have asked for that better. We need an anti-nutrient list, people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to be able to, and the number of people too, like the kidney stones. Oh my God, the kidney
Oh,
stones, right? The
yeah.
urologists love kidney stones because it's like, it's literally a cash cow for them, right? And they
Yeah.
don't say, by the way, you might be eating a lot of oxalates, and here's a
Yeah.
list of high oxalate foods. Could you please eliminate potatoes, sweet potatoes, spinach, kale,
Yeah.
almonds? Instead, it's like, I'll see you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Back,
Yeah.
and kidney stones are devastating. I have people that have lost kidneys from kidney stones. I have people
Mhm.
that have had horrible infections land in ICU from kidney stones, and I've even seen 3 people die from infected kidney stones, right?
Wow.
So, and it's
Yeah.
suffering, right? It's interesting. We talk about pain. There's pain and there's suffering. Pain is a physiologic response to trauma, right? But suffering is psychological, right? And
Yeah.
when people are in agony and in suffering from kidneys, they really suffer, right? It is
Mhm.
miserable, right? So this is an opportunity when they're in those throes of pain to say, like, would you change your diet so you don't have to come in here again? It's like, hell yeah. But
Yeah.
nobody's saying that to them. They just
No.
say, again, yeah.
And what's interesting when you bring that up, because I've not really I've kind of put the two together, but not so specifically. So I always had severe like kidney issues as a child. I grew up mostly vegan, vegetarian. My mom was vegetarian when I was conceived. So like there was a whole life of that. By the time I was 8 years old, I had severe kidney infection that I had to be hospitalized. I had kidney stones pretty much, like you said, every 6 to 8 months as a child. So mind you, at 8 years old, my like really first terrifying experience with this is I'm being sprawled on a table, all of my
As an 8-year-old.
private parts being
Yeah.
splayed, and having somebody handle me in order to be able to put the urethra tube up so that they could,
Catheter.
do whatever with the catheter. Yeah. 8 years old. I'm going to tell you that experience alone psychologically hurt me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Like, it was very damaging. But you know what's interesting? Since I've been carnivore, I have not had a single problem with kidneys or kidney stones or any of that. And it was like I knew that, oh, well, I'm not eating as many oxalates, and I know that's what's happening. But what you said just completely triggered the, hello, I was 8 years old. Why would I have kidney issues?
Yes. Yeah. And
that doesn't make sense.
yeah, like why didn't like to stop and pause and think, so there's something happening that's unique to this child.
Yeah.
And what is it? Oh, it's a diet that's really high in oxalates, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps she would do better without that, right? Because our bodies can only clear so much in a day.
Yeah.
And one spinach smoothie is something like 4 times the amount of oxalate that you can potentially even clear in a 24-hour period. Put it in a smoothie, and straight shot, right? That's
I practically lived on smoothies and juice cleanses and all of these like different things. I mean, my poor mother, because I'm sure whenever she sees any of these, feels like I'm just completely like berating her, and I'm not intentionally, because it wasn't known, right? To her, she thought she was doing the best thing, but it's kind of like these things come up, like an 8-year-old with severe kidney infections. That's not normal.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
if these things are coming up in your family or your children, particularly paying attention to if your children have instances that seem somewhat abnormal, maybe it's not that they need another drug or another hospital intervention. It's that they might need to change their food.
Absolutely. 100%. Amen. Yeah, and your mom was doing the best she could with what she had at the time. I love that Maya Angelou quote, right? And then when you know better, you do better, right? And I feel like your suffering, right? The suffering that you've had, Selena, has now propelled you to be this incredible mom, feeding nutrient-dense food to this little one, right? And so
my little raw baby.
Yeah,
little
what a
raw
blessing
baby.
is, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your 900-year-old, 4-year-old raw baby.
That's right.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. Don't be upset.
Don't be upset. Don't be upset. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, ladies, I am going to have to run, because speaking of my little one, he is up and ready for me to be out there with him for the day. So I have enjoyed this tremendously, and such a beautiful conversation. And I really hope that we will get to have you back again in the future.
In a hot minute, anytime.
And if you're going to be at Hack Your Health, we'll see you there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be hacking.
Are you there? Oh,
I'm there.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yes. So we will be there as well. Yay.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm making the
that'll
Canadian
be
turn.
November.
Yeah.
I'll be going down a little ahead of time.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Get me out of Canada and get me down to the warmth of Florida. I'm good to go.
Well, I look forward to that for sure. And for everyone who's watching, we will see you on the flip side. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you too.